We're doing collages, maps, and trucks, and lots of trees. Next on The Amazing Art Show. Hi, and welcome to another edition of The Amazing Art Show. I'm your host, Angie Beam, and today we are all about trucks. And we are going to be doing a collage today, and it is based off of this book, and it is like the super easy reader book, Trucks, and it is Whiz, Zoom, and Rumble. And what I loved about this book, not that it was such a riveting book to read, although it was very cute. I really liked just the details of the trucks, and I liked the maps in the background, and I liked that they kind of joined what was on the logo of the truck as to who was driving it. And so that kind of gave me the idea for our project. So, and the book had, just all different kinds. It didn't matter, what kind of a truck it was. They had roosters driving trucks, they had pigs driving trucks, horses driving trucks. They had, let's see, on the bank truck, the money truck, they have like a rhinoceros. So came up with some pretty creative ways to illustrate not only what was on the logo, but kind of tie it in with who was driving. So that's kind of what gave me the idea for our project. So having said that, we're doing a collage, so you don't need anything too terribly crazy today. You're going to need colored construction paper. Kind of the weirdest thing that you're going to need, which really isn't that hard to find, is part of a map. And if mom and dad don't have a map that they want you to cut up, although let me tell you, hit up Grammy, Grandpa, because they've got old maps like crazy. So they might have an old map for you that they wouldn't mind you using. But if not, you can print something out off the computer. Just a map of your area or your neighborhood would work fine as well. And then you're going to need a longer sheet of paper. Doesn't really matter the weight on the paper. And we're going to need markers and glue, scissors, and the other thing that you're going to need is just going to be another little white plain piece of paper, and this is going to be what we're going to be drawing your truck on. So kind of a horizontal kind of a piece, long and skinny, and I think that is about it. All right, so we are ready to get rocking and rolling on this. And so first things first, I want you to think about what kind of truck you would be driving. So what kind of truck do you want to make? Who do you want to have driving your truck? Those are all very important questions. And then you also need to think about, because we're going to be tying in a logo design on your truck, what kind of things is your truck going to haul? Is it going to haul money? Is it going to haul Lego pieces? Is it going to haul ice cream? It's up to you to decide. And so you decide what you want your truck to haul, who you want to drive it, and then remember that you're going to kind of associate the logo of the truck with who's driving. So kind of keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to start out really quick here and draw my truck. And I was explaining to the kids that the more detailed you can make your truck, the better it will look. Just like the books that the trucks that we had seen in the book. They all had really nice details. You could look at it immediately, before you even noticed what it might have on the side of the truck for a logo. You could already kind of tell what kind of a truck it was, what it might possibly be hauling, because they already gave you a lot of really good visual clues with all those details. So add those details, and I am going to do an art truck. So mine is going to be hauling art supplies, and I would like for this truck to come to my house first, and then I would like for it to come to school, and I would like to be getting all kinds of cool art supplies off of the art truck. And my driver is going to be somebody, I'm borrowing kind of a look of Salvador Dali. So he's going to have a little bitty little goatee, and he's going to have one of those little curly mustaches. And he is going to be the driver of my truck. And add your good details in there. And we are going to be adding color to this, and I'm going to kind of leave that part up to you. In my classroom, when we did this project, we did crayon, mainly because our markers are not working that well. But you could definitely do marker. My example that I'm going to show you here in a second, I actually did that one with markers because I had some good markers at my house. So in terms of the good details that I was mentioning, I want you to think about how is a car held together. It's got nuts and bolts and screws and things that hold everything in place. And so those would be some good details that you might want to add, nuts and bolts and things like that kind of hold everything together. And I'm going to put one of my little details, I'm going to put a little artist palette here. So that's going to be one of my little details. And then I'm also going to do on my truck, you know how kind of like the ice cream trucks, sometimes they have like those big ice cream cone looking things like up on top of their car? I'm going to do a big brush on top of my car. So that way, if you see this truck coming, before it even gets to you, you're going to already know what it has on it. And you might think about maybe like you want to add like flames on your car. You want to think about making it really colorful. We also had a very big talk in class about tires and about how, you know, there is the center part of the tire where all the nuts and bolts are that kind of hold everything together. And so we talked about kind of adding some details in the center. We talked about different hubcaps and what they might look like. And let's see, I'm going to do a little grate right here. You might do like a little, maybe there's some kind of a little emblem on the front of the car. Don't forget you want the front bumper, the back bumper. Those are some really good details to add. Lights on your car. These are going to be my lights up here. And I'll put some lights back here as well. And for your logo that goes on your truck, you want it to be something that is legible. So do your best handwriting. And imagine that you were selling this truck design to someone. So you want it to be like your very, very, very best work. So do your best handwriting. Make sure it's really legible and everybody can understand it and read it and all that kind of good stuff. And then what I want you to do is you're just going to get your black Sharpie marker, and I want you just to outline everything. And I actually have one that I've already outlined everything on. So I am going to grab that one. All right, put that to the side. All right, so here is my art truck. This one, it has someone very familiar, you might notice, driving the truck. That is not Salvador Dali. There's no curly mustache there, ladies and gentlemen. That is yours truly driving the art truck. And so I've added on mine, I've got red flames. I've got really good details on my wheels, on the lights. You see here like some little nuts and bolts holding things together. I've got my side mirrors. We talked about the importance of side mirrors. I've got my rear view mirror. I've got all those really good details. I have locks on my car, and like you should always have, I have my seatbelt on in my car because I always drive with my seatbelt on. And so just think about really good details. My logo for my truck, I went a little crazy and kind of did some fun stuff. A little more detailed than the one that I was starting out with, but I had a lot more time to work on this one. So from here, what I want you to do is you're going to get your markers, and you're basically just going to start coloring your truck. Decide what color you want your truck to be. and kind of plan it out in your head before you start. So I know I'm going to have red flames. I think I'm going to do my red flames first just because that's going to inspire me. And then I will decide what other colors I might like to add. And this marker is not working very good. See my trouble with markers? Let's try this one. Oh, that's better. And I'm going to add a bunch of warm colors in here. So I'm not going to make the whole thing red. I'm going to add some yellow and some orange in here as well. And let's see what else. Put a little orange in here. Also, if you can get your hands on a gray marker, that works really good for, you know, like the shiny metal parts that you find on vehicles, like the chrome and different types of metals. That works really good to kind of illustrate that point. I did not have any in my school packs, but I did have one that's kind of a fancy marker at my house. So I brought that with me today. But you could also use, you know, crayons if you don't have a marker. You could also just do that part with the crayon. You got a gray crayon for sure. All right. All right, so I've got my flames going, and now I have to finish coloring the rest of my truck, but I'm going to switch over and grab my one that I've already finished. And once again, it's going to be a little bit different too. This is one, it's got Salvador Dali driving, and no flames, because the flames are just for me. So he doesn't get any flames on his truck. So gray on the wheels worked really, really well. I put a little bit of gray, kind of like the glass on the windshield, worked really well. And then places where you would have metal, you would need to add, you know, gray for those areas as well. So really good details. And then you're going to put this to the side because we're done with this part until a little bit later. All right. So I'm going to put this over to the side. And next, I'm going to grab my larger sheet of paper and my map. And you want to make your map the same size as your large sheet of paper, but it doesn't have to cover the whole thing. I would say cover about to the halfway point, maybe just a hair below. And then you're going to actually, you can glue that part on first because you're going to need that to be down. And I normally do not use glue sticks, but I'm coming over to the dark side today and I'm using glue sticks. I usually cannot stand glue sticks. I'm like, the kids always say, can we have glue sticks? I'm like, no, no glue sticks. But today I'm going to use glue sticks. I will say they're a lot faster, but you know, we want you to learn how to control the glue, so it doesn't do very good if you've got a glue stick. That kind of takes all of the fun out of it. All right, and I want everything to lay down really flat. Check your edges, make sure everything's down. Make sure you got glue down far enough. Make sure you don't have any little air bubbles. All right, and you'll notice on mine that I've got like part of the map, and then this has got like places. So if you've just got some little weird piece of it, it doesn't matter if there's other things up there at the top that aren't necessarily map-like. It's okay. All right, so we are going to be creating some different layers on your paper. Obviously, the map is going to be the thing that is in the background of our paper. And speaking of that, let's look at this really quick. Things that are going to be in this area on our paper are going to be the foreground. Anything in the middle area is going to be our middle ground. And then anything back towards the top is going to be the background. So if you'll kind of think about it as things closest to you, kind of close but not super close, and then things that are far away from you. So as you're doing this, I want you to kind of think about, you know, the more details you're going to have up in your foreground because those things are closer to you and you can notice more, you know, details about those areas for sure. And I'm going to start with a piece of brown paper, and I am just going to do, I don't want it to be a straight cut, so I'm just going to do something that's kind of rolling and curving. That will eventually go down here. Then I'm going to get some green paper, and this is going to be kind of a grassy area, I guess. And that's going to fit in there. And then your last piece, which is going to go towards the middle to background area, is going to be the hill that you're going to create, that eventually we're going to have your truck like driving up the hill. So you want to kind of lay your papers down, kind of like I have mine laid down, and you want to decide, okay, what do I want my hill to go like this, or do you want it to go more kind of graduating up towards one side? So you kind of want to think about that. So depending on how big you've made your truck, like right now, mine would probably do best if I do something where it kind of graduates and goes uphill. Doing something that goes up and down would be kind of weird and hard to situate with my truck. But your truck might be smaller or it might be bigger depending on how crazy you got. So I'm going to go from here on the edge, and I'm just going to draw a line that goes down, and I'm going to let it go right off the edge. And then I'm going to cut that. And these pieces of paper, you know, I told you that we were collaging, and one of the things that is so hard, I think, sometimes for the kids at school is realizing you get real excited and you want to do like the best parts first, which I totally get. But with collage, you know, you kind of have to save your best things for the end, because, you know, those are the things that you want to go on last because you want everybody to notice those the most. This stuff is just kind of your background stuff, and it's stuff that's going to be, you know, not up at the forefront for everybody to really look at and ooh and ah and all that kind of great stuff. Now with my scraps, I'm going to create some symmetrical shapes. I'm going to do some trees, so I'm just going to fold my paper in half. And remember that trees are not perfectly straight. Oh my, that was kind of crazy. And so don't worry about if your trunk of your tree is perfect or not. And now this is the thing. Trees that you find in nature are typically not symmetrical, but we just made our shape symmetrical just because it would kind of help us save some time. But I would encourage you, once you have it, go back in and kind of change it somehow, because, you know, I mean, we want it to be as realistic as possible. And so we don't want it to look exactly symmetrical. And so that's going to go, I could do it down here, I could do it up here, I might even do maybe something up there. And then I'm just going to do with my other scraps that I have left over, I'm just going to cut out very roughly kind of the foliage part of the tree. And I don't want it to all be exactly the same color, so I'm going to add in some of this lighter green as well. There we go. So kind of leave that in. And you can do it where maybe you see some of the branches when you kind of start arranging things. So kind of think about that as well. And I do not want to have just one tree, so I've actually, what did I do with it? Here it is. I've actually already cut out some of my other shapes. Where did it go? All right, so I've got another tree there. And I think I want to have 3 trees because I don't want it to be, you know, I don't want it to be too in even numbers. Remember how we always talk about odd numbers, so kind of think about that. All right, so I'm going to You'll notice that only the map is the only thing I've glued on so far, because I want you to kind of lay things out first and then kind of start the gluing process. So I'm going to take these things, now that I kind of know I've got those trees. I've also done some bushes that will kind of go on there as well. And so I'm going to move this stuff over to the side. And my first piece, I'm going to make sure that I keep it right there. When I peel off those other pieces, I'm just going to bring this forward and get out that old wonderful glue stick. And I'm going to glue it down. Make sure you get it straight. And then next piece, I'm going to put my brown piece back on there just so I can make sure that I get the white covered. Now, do I want this to be up taller, or do I want it to be, you know, a little bit lower? That's kind of where you have to make some decisions. I think I'm going to do mine, I think right there. All right, so I'm going to lift that up as well and glue that down. And, oh, I got crooked. That's not going to work. All right, and then last layer is going to be obviously the ground or the dirt. And if you don't want to do dirt and you'd rather do another layer of grass, you can do that as well. It doesn't have to be, you know, the dirt. All right, now I'm going to flip this over because I've got pieces that are hanging off of the edge because my construction paper is a little wider than my piece of paper that I had cut. So I'm going to trim these off. I see a lot of kids that try to trim it ahead of time. That never works out well. It's better just to go ahead and glue it on and then trim it, because then you know you've got it and it's going to go all the way to the edge and you're good to go. All right, so that's what I got so far. Now let's talk about getting my other objects on there. So I think I'm going to do one tree. Whoa. I'm going to do one tree over here. And I like that this one has the bark on this tree. The tree trunk is a lighter brown, which I like because it's different than the other ones that I made. And here's my one that I just did. That's another reason why I don't like those glue sticks. They keep falling. And I'm going to do this one over here. And I'm going to put this. No, I don't like that. I'm going to do it on top. Put that on top. And then that smaller piece, I'm going to do that back behind. And then put that back on top. All right. So in collage, you know, you're doing lots and lots and lots of layers. So kind of keep in mind, you know, it's not a quick, you just slap everything all together. It's lots and lots of layers, and you kind of have to think about where you want to put things. Where's it going to look the best? Get that tree in there. All right, so I feel pretty good about that. I've got my threes going. I've got this little bush I'm going to put over here. And let's see what else. Oh, I also did some little sprigs of grass. I kind of thought that would be kind of a cool idea. And you're just going to keep working on the background part of your project. And remember that it's not a, you know, a super fast kind of a thing. The other thing that I want you to think about is what's going to be up in the sky. Do you want to have a sun? Do you want to have clouds? I think I'm going to do a sun, and I'm going to do some clouds, and I'm going to have my clouds partially cover my sun, because collage is all about those layers. It's like the more layers you can put on there, the better. So I'm going to put my sun up here, and I'm going to layer a cloud over that. Now, while I kind of finish piecing mine together, let's go to the quote for today. Be able to draw an illustration at least well enough to get your point across to another person. Marilyn Vossavant. We are just continuing all that layering that we've been talking about, and I'm just about on my last little pieces here. While you were away listening to that wonderful quote, I continued to work. I've added a couple more bushes. I've got flowers and grass. I added a little bird's nest. Just think about good little details that you can add. Another thing that you might want to think about doing, and I really didn't have time to do it in mine, but it would be a really neat thing to think about doing, is you could get your markers in kind of some contrasting colors and outline, or you could even add patterns to each of the different colors. You know, like your trees, you might do horizontal red lines, and then on the bushes you might do, you know, orange vertical lines. But you could really turn this into a real line project if you really enjoy doing lines, and add some really kind of cool details there. But we are just about finished. So the last part of your project is going to be adding your truck. And so your truck is going to be traveling up the hill. And so you want to situate it where it is, you know, on the paper. If it hangs off a little bit, I wouldn't worry about that. But one thing is, a lot of people want to put it down where it kind of overlaps here. But you have to think about, you really want to put it more where it's up on top of the hill, because it's going to be traveling up on the surface or the top part of the hill. So don't drop it down too low. You don't want it like going all-terrain vehicle. You want it just to be like, we're not talking crazy driving here. We're just going to stay on the road. So the road's going to be up here. So you're going to add that, and then that is your last step. And once you get your truck on, just kind of double check and make sure that you've got, you know, good details on there. And that does it for today. I hope that you had a great time with your truck project. Now go out and make some amazing art.